things that's most rewarding about seeing a First Chesapeake competition is the energy. This is not a science fair. It is loud. There is cheering. There are mascots. It is something that you have to see to believe. These kids have really found their bliss. They found a goal, and they all are working towards this. And we see this as they graduate, as they go on to college, and as they enter their careers. We feel that FIRST has really been their first step in a successful future for them and also for us.
First Chesapeake obviously teaches STEM skills for building robots, but it's also about more than robots. And I learned so many more things that really made me well-rounded as a person. As a student, I met people both on my teams and at competitions who are doing amazing things and have gone on to do really incredible things in STEM as well. That's a lot of fun, and it's also really valuable because it gives me these connections to people doing phenomenal things in STEM.
I first became involved with First Chesapeake when my two sons became involved with the FIRST program. Both of them were in robotics and found a huge passion for the ability to grow and also to explore the emerging capabilities around robotics. FIRST, and First Chesapeake specifically, is a great avenue for our children to understand how they can impact the world in a fun and engaging environment. I'm so excited about the impact that our First Chesapeake students will have on our future.
I was amazed at what these young high school students were able to accomplish in 6 weeks. They take a project that seems like it's daunting and hard to achieve, and they're able to break it down and bring different skills and diverse backgrounds and achieve it. It's just a really amazing experience to see how someone's learning comes to life. And even more so, having been, both a mentor and a judge, also seeing what these students bring to the table and the amount of thought and strategy and through to execution that they have is truly profound, and it's always a pleasure to see what they come up with.
When we think about robotics, and when we think about the future engineers, the future doctors, the future astronauts, the future educators, as well as the future trades and craftsmen, those individuals are going to have a strong math and science background. So First Chesapeake being the training ground in order for these new leaders to emerge is going to be very valuable, is very valuable. So we have to continue to nurture them, continue to give them the guidance that they need, continue to give them the mentoring that they need in order for them to be able to dream about what it's going to take for us to continue to be competitive as a country in this global world.
Our First Chesapeake students are going to have a tremendous impact on our future. They are already making a difference today. They are working in companies such as NASA. They are working for the military. They are working in film. These are creative, smart, driven young people, and they are tomorrow's technology leaders.
Welcome, everybody. I'd just like to do a special thank you to Accenture Federal Services. They are our town hall sponsor for the season. And they also helped to put together that video that you just saw, which I think really shows off all we have to offer. From an agenda perspective, we're going to go through and actually do the cultural awards and announce who the winners of those are for the semifinalists. In May, we'll have our next one, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then Leanne's going to give you a little update, First Chesapeake. And then there's a few items topics that we have in there that I've been getting questions about. So we wanted to talk about a little bit about next season and what's going to happen upcoming for off season and so on. We run these the same as we always do. The big thing is, we have a hard stop at 7:00. So if you have questions and they're not unanswered, we'll get back to you on those. You can type all the questions in that you want into the chat section out there, and we'll try to answer them at the tail end. And then also the other thing is, we're going to have more of these town halls, obviously, throughout the year. But our next one is scheduled for June 8th. And hopefully by then we'll have a little better feel for some of the things that might be happening next season. So the first thing we want to cover is these cultural awards. So our award show that will be coming up on May 4th is when, and that'll be on Twitch as well. And that'll be when we actually announce not only the cultural award finalists, but also any of you that competed in any of the other competitions, the at-home challenge and so on. Any of the teams that won in those different categories, we'll be announcing those winners as well. So even though those were judged on a world level, they will be part of our award ceremony. We also have a few awards that are specific to First Chesapeake, and we'll be going through those as well. As far as what we have for the chairman's and dean's list, there were 38 students that got nominated for dean's list, and there were 21 teams that competed for chairman's. The interviews will be on the 17th and 18th for both of those of April. And our judge advisor will get a hold of you for scheduling those, similar to how they did when you did your initial interviews for them. In the end, there'll be 3 dean's lists and 2 chairman's finalists that'll get selected to move forward at the world level. So going forward, the first thing I wanted to really do is thank all the judges that participated in the companies they work for, that participated in judging these cultural awards. Thank you, everyone on here. So the Dean's List semifinalists we have is there's 6 of these that are moving forward, and these are the names and the teams of the students that will be interviewed sometime on the 17th or 18th. Okay. And then again on the chairman's, these are the 6 chairman's semifinalist winners that will be moving forward for the 2 slots as finalists in there. And again, same thing is on the 17th to 18th time frame. The JA will be getting a hold of you to schedule your interviews. And then I'd like to turn it over to Leanne to talk a little bit about the current state of things.
Thanks, Ron. So I had hoped that I would have more updates for you at this point. Unfortunately, we just haven't been able to get as many answers as we'd like from headquarters. So I'll give you the updates on what we have. One thing that I would like you to mark your calendars for, again, is, as Ron said, it's the May 4th awards. It's also our end of the season celebration, and he'll be telling you more about that later. So make sure you mark your calendars for that. It's going to be a remote ceremony. And we're hoping to get back to a more normal season next year in the fall. But we, as I said, are still waiting to hear from her first headquarters about that. But we do have a plan in place, and so Ron can give you a little bit more information on that as well. I just want you to know that we are thinking ahead, we are making plans, and so I'm going to ask you some questions while I'm talking to you, and I would really love to hear from you tomorrow or later this week about that, because we are making plans for news for the next season. This slide that Ron put up here just kind of shows you that in a more normal year, we would have over 320 First Tech Challenge teams. This year we had 176. In a more normal year, we would have over 120 FRC teams. This year we had 97. And we think that we will have teams coming back next year. But what we wanted you to know is that we are going to start contacting teams probably around August, both teams who participated this year and teams that maybe took a step back this year. We'll contact all of those just to kind of see where they are, what they plan on doing. But I know August is a long ways away, and some folks are already talking about next year. So if you come across a problem where you might need some bridge funding to get up and running for next year, I mean, if that's going to be the deciding factor of if you come back, or if you need some other type of support or have a question, please reach out to me or Ron. As far as funding is concerned, we do still have some funds available, but they're tied to like different geographies, different demographics. So we need to hear from you first. We can't just, like republish grants because they're in all sorts of little different pots. So just reach out to us and we will try to help. Now, since this past season really made us think outside of the box, we tried a lot of new things, as I'm sure you know. Some of them we thought were pretty cool, and some maybe didn't work as well as we had hoped. But what we'd like to hear from you is if you saw things from this year that you'd like to see again. So even if we go back to our in-person events for the fall or for the winter, what were some things that you maybe really liked about what we did this year that we can incorporate into that plan? And again, now is the time to tell us. And also, if there were things that we did in the 2019-2020 year, if there were specific things that you really want to see again, please let us know. Because again, we're planning, we want to make these the best events possible. And finally, just one other thing that I wanted you to put on your calendars. There will be a free Virginia Advocacy Conference on Sunday, April 18th. Teams 422, 1080, and 540 are involved in this. And our board chair, Dean Roberts, is also going to be saying a few words at the opening. So it is a free event. It's remote. So if you're interested in learning more about it, we will have it up on the calendar on our website tomorrow. And so you can get the details then. So with that, I am going to turn it back to Ron.
Okay. The first kind of topic is, for that award ceremony in preparation for it. Last year, we did a senior celebration piece that we put together, and we want to do something similar to that this year. We will be sending out to the lead mentors kind of a template of what we're looking for, but we also, one comment, I guess, isn't there? If you want to put audio and do a kind of a voiceover, that's fine, but we don't want to put any music in it because we don't want to get into any copyright kind of issues. The other piece on here is I will be reaching out to some of the teams and students, et cetera, for possibly some team pictures or student photos or that kind of thing that we'll incorporate into the award ceremony as well. The big thing to remember here is if you get pictures of students and so on, make sure you get their permission to be able to put them in there. So if they don't want to be in them, they have the option of opting out. So just a reminder on that one. As far as off-season events go, I know this is a hot topic for everybody. FTC, if you are planning on having, I know some of our teams do scrimmages and so on, and the Maryland Tech Invitational has got something going and so on. There is no restrictions on you being able to do them. Like always, we don't actually get involved in them other than we might put them on the calendar or notify that they're going to be out there. But please make sure you follow local CDC guidelines, whatever they are at that point in time when you actually run that event. That is a concern. I hear from teams a lot of, what are the safety things? Everybody, I think, was appreciative when we published the guidelines for what our events were. And it'd be nice if for all your events, you have something similar, at least, that you can put out. On the FRC side, though, that's still kind of pending a decision by First Headquarters, whether they're even going to allow them or not. So currently, we can't do anything really that's at all. But if you're planning on doing something, it cannot be anything First branded whatsoever. So totally unrelated to First, you can hold your own kind of events with them. I know like bunny bots and things like that would fall into those categories. The other one is if they approve First approves off-season events, we will be having probably some additional restrictions on those events, and they're going to be tighter controlled than they ever did in the past. In the past, they just kind of let everybody do whatever, and they're basically saying if they do them, it's going to be a lot harder we're going to have to jump through more hoops to make sure we do it. And then the last one is on there. I'm going to kind of reach out to the folks that did the previous off seasons last year, or 2 years ago now, I guess, just to kind of gauge whether you're interested in having them or able to even hold them. Because one of the things I know some people have been telling me is, the schools haven't approved being able to do anything non-school oriented at their schools. So, what the restrictions will be in the fall is, I guess, unknown at this point. So anyway, so that's off seasons. And then Leanne kind of touched on this one as far as what we're thinking for next season. At this point, there's a few things that first it has been actually asking us about. And again, this might be something you can give feedback on, but for FTC and for FRC, they're actually discussing the possibility of keeping some of the aspects of judging remote. So there'd be some judges at the event, but then there'd also be, judges on a remote basis. And one of the big advantages of that is we can recruit judges from everywhere. And for FTC this year, we had judges from all over the place. And that, is kind of a plus. It also eliminates any kind of conflict of interest kind of thing. So that's something that, some of that may stay around even if we were to go back to a more normal thing. And then again, second point on there is who knows what size events we're going to be able to have in the fall. And if we'll even be allowed to have spectators or the size of spectators and so on. So these are kind of the things we're keeping in mind as we go through it. And then the next one is, for FTC in particular, we normally have our first event middle of November. If we're going to be able to do that or not, or we're going to have to compress it like we did this year and move it kind of into the January timeframe. Again, these are all kind of unknowns, but things we were looking at. And then, the last point on here is because of all this, we're basically planning to say, okay, how are we going to do this if this turns out to be a regular season? Whatever regular is, it's probably going to be, even a regular one might be restrictions on how many spectators and so on we can have. But if we have a regular season or we have the hybrid style season. So if it was the hybrid, we'd plan on doing something similar to how we did this season with fewer venues, with more events at fewer venues. Again, trying to keep the cost down. And again, this would apply to both FRC and FTC. And then, so we're looking at the both scenarios with doing it in a non-school environment as well as doing it in a school environment. I mean, there are a couple of the ones from last year, schools that I've talked to that just, what do they feel, whether they'll be able to have events or not? And they don't actually know at this point. So, we need to kind of cover both bases there. And then the event location and distribution kind of, again says, if we did it similar to the hybrid, we'd go back to a similar hybrid model we had this year. Otherwise, we would be pushing them out. And particularly with the FTC side of things, we would try to cover our more remote locations a little better so they didn't have to travel quite so far to get to them. And again, what we end up with may be a combination of these two things. But, we need to be able to, work all these things in and figure out what our costs will be so that at the same time, we can't go broke. Let's put it that way. We need to be able to pay for these events so that, we can get more teams coming on. And then the last point is we're going to actually reach out to, previous venues that we had for FRC, FTC, as well as the hybrid venues to see if they're interested in, trying to help out with it next year as an option as well. So not a lot of answers here necessarily, but I just really, we want you to know we're thinking about all these things and we're trying to make sure that no matter what kind of year it is, we have it covered. And again, for FTC, the first is not quite as involved in the planning cycle, but for FRC, we have to kind of follow what First Headquarters does as well, because they control a lot tighter. And that's actually all I had. So if I don't know if there's any other questions, I'm just kind of looking over there in the chat and it doesn't look like there's much for questions out there. Does anybody have anything? Okay. I guess I guess we covered as much as we can. I think the thing with it is please contact Leanne or I about any questions you have that might pop up, or suggestions about next season as well. When thinking through those different options, I know, this year there was no perfect answer, but we tried to do as much as we could to, get the kids as much of a normal season as we possibly could. And I think it was pretty successful. And, teams, I think also, I have to say, I thank all of you for complying with all our safety measures and so on. And we actually pushed through over 1,000 people through our events at all those venues through the FTC season. So we know we can do it, but we couldn't have done it without you is basically what it comes down to. So I guess if there's no questions, I guess we'll close it out. And now, if we'll kind of wrap it up with another quick video from Accenture Federal Systems to kind of close it out. So thanks everybody for attending.